Power chords, this is what I'm going to talk about today. So power chords, kind of synonymous with rock music, and what they are is just really what we would say like the root and the fifth of a chord. So let's say I'm here, we'll just start with A here. So I'm at the 5th fret of the low E here with my first finger, and then I got my ring finger on the 7th of the A string. So just these two, right? So it's the root of the 5th of a scale. If I take an A major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, and I take that first note, the A, and then I go to the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I combine those two, that's a power chord, the root and the 5th of a scale. Okay, so now a couple things. This is a very ambiguous chord, and what I mean by that is that it's neither, when I just play, if I'm just chunking away here at that chord, it's neither major nor minor. So right now you can hear a major scale, you can hear a minor scale, right? You can play your minor pentatonic, play it diminished, right? Anything would work over it, okay? Because it's ambiguous. If a bass player started playing a bass line out of a major scale, then I'd have to conform to that with the major scale, and vice versa. If a bass player started playing a bass line out of the minor scale, I'd have to conform to that too, right? To a minor scale. Okay, so a couple things here real quickly I want to talk about now is some like technique and form of power chords. So if you see me adding my pinky on underneath the ring finger on the D string here of the 7th fret, that's just the octave of the A of the first. Right? So you don't have to play that. You can choose to. It's just, to me, it doesn't really, just thickens it up a little bit by adding another octave in there, another root, right? Okay, and then another thing here we want to talk about is, and this becomes a very big deal here. A long time ago, someone explained this to me when I was living in California, that I hadn't mastered power chords yet, and I didn't know what he was talking about. And what he explained to me is how you got to learn how to like rest the finger on the bottom strings so that they're, hear that? So they're muted out, right? And that takes a little bit of time to like get used to, where you don't press down. So many of you are going to start out with playing your power chords if you've never done it, if you're a beginner. So you're going to be very high with your fingers like this, and all these strings are going to be open. And eventually you learn how to kind of let these fingers, this index especially, settle down and mute out. Now the reason that is that, well, you can, it's like, can be controlled sloppiness in a sense, right? You don't always want to have to be so precise with strumming your power chords. If your fingers are up now with high gain on, like I don't have this thing very loud, my little desktop amp here, but a real stage amp, like if I had all these strings unchecked, this noise would be coming through because of the gain. But even if I start strumming this, the noise on this starts to take over. You can hear if I kind of take that out. I do have just a little bit of delay on here. So you really got to learn how to control, the strings as you play. So what I was saying now a second ago is, you don't always want to have to be so precise with just strumming those two strings, right? There's times where that is definitely what you need to do, but there's also times where you just want to be able to you want to be able to strum. So it's kind of like a, controlled mess there, or controlled sloppiness or something, right? You could say. So that is something you're going to have to work at, right? And that'll happen over time. You're not going to just sit down and master that in 20 minutes. So, okay. So now let's just get into some, real quickly, maybe some stuff that you might recognize with power chords would be, like something that comes to my mind is Smells Like Teen Spirit, like what else? You Really Got Me. by the Kinks. And then it goes, and it's kind of the same riff, just moved around, right? Jesse's Girl, but Summer of '69. So just, I mean, there's a million other of them, right? But just so you get an idea of some of the songs that use power chords for the riffs that they use, right? Okay, so what can we? I'll show you a few things here that you can do. So the opening thing I was doing is just got some different techniques here too. I was playing an F power chord, right? And then I moved it to the 5th fret of the A string now. So that's just the same shape, I'm just down on the A and D string, right? So I'm hitting those two. Now the trick here becomes your index finger learns to mute the low E string while the other still muting the bottom string. So again, I can strum them all. And all you're hearing is that whether or not I choose to put the pinky underneath again, this time on the G string of the 7th fret. It doesn't really matter to me, it's going to be muted out either way, okay? So I'm going, now here, okay, let me just show you the chords. So we got the F there, and I moved it up to the 5th fret of the A string, and then I moved that up to the 5th fret of the low E, so just move these up. Again, whether you have 3 fingers down or 2, it doesn't matter. And then I went up a half step from there to the 6th fret. These power chords are F, D, 5, F5, D5, A5, and B flat 5. Some of you just know these as numbers, and that's not the best way to go. 1, 5, 5. It's not the best way. Know that this is an F5, the root, the lowest sounding note of the chord. 1st fret of the low E is an F, 5th fret of the A string is a D, 5th fret of the low E is an A, and the 6th fret of the low E is a B flat. Okay? Now I'm using a technique here where I'm like, I'm doing this, right? I'm releasing the pressure. I'm strumming that, so I'm going. And I'm doing it up here and do it. Move it up. Move it up. It's really a bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I could also put a little bit of a palm mute on this too to get a little bit, you know, like instead of that. Palm muting, right? I gotta get the pad of the hand and I gotta get that very close to the back of the bridge, okay? And you can hear, if you're not close enough, if I move my hand up a little bit, you'll get a smushed out. If you want this cool harmonic. It's not cool harmonics, you know, but otherwise, yeah, you gotta be close to the bridge. Now what I'm doing is I got the 3-finger power chord. I'm hitting more of the top bass note, and then I'm hitting the 2 strings, the A and the D string. So now I'm breaking up the power chord. That will lead to some interesting things too. You can pick it up. Now I'm picking the strings individually, right? So again, you start to see that it's not just that, right? You can experiment with other ways here, okay? What is something else you can do? Let's see here. So now I'm just taking A and I'm moving it down to the D string of the 3rd fret of the A at the 5th fret of the low E, and then C power chord here at the 3rd fret of the A string. Now I'm moving chromatically. So it's the 5th fret of the low E, and then you move it to the 3rd fret of the A string. You move up chromatically 3, 4, 5, C, C sharp, D. Come back to the A, and then you move move down on the low E to the 3rd of the fret, and you move up chromatically there. Right, so the usage of chromatics, okay? Again, I could put my finger down here if I wanted and do that, or I could add the 3rd. Okay. Some sliding ideas, you know, now notice this, I slid to C now. So this here at the 8th fret of the low E is the same power chord as at the 3rd fret of the A string. Hear that? A little bit of different tone, but it's the same thing. So now I definitely can't do the sliding thing when I go from here to here, but I can go right. Okay, so knowing one chord in different places is really a valuable thing, okay? If I come down to E here at the 7th fret of the A string, and again my ring is right underneath on the 9th fret of the D string, so now I can start pedaling the low E, and you get some like, you know, some like 80s or metal kind of. So there I'm just like, I'm palm muting the E, the low E, then I'm hitting the power chord. So I'm just basically going from on the A string power chord, I'm going 7, 5, 3, 2, 3, 5, and I'm like, I'm just, the last one's a little bit quicker just to kind of make the riff of it. Okay. I could move that down to A. I mean, that's a very 80s thing to just move from the 1 to the 4. So that was just moving what I did from here. I just moved it down. So now I'm playing a power chord on the D string. Again, a lot of people don't utilize the D string root power chord. So this is the 7th of the D and the 9th of the G. Well, this is the same as playing your power chord at the 5th fret of the low E, because that's an A. There's the octave. Alright, so I can play A and E, which is the power with the notes that make up an A power chord. A and E, A and E. Now if I move that up an octave. Right? It's kind of a cool trick if you're right, if you've written a song that has power chords in it and you want to make a second track, you know? So if I'm like, maybe I want to come up here then as a layer and do the same thing an octave higher, right? You really got me. It's the same thing, right? So once again, yeah, I was doing this. Then I can just move this down and do the same thing now. With the open A as my pedal, I'm on the D string. Okay, so you start to see, you know, learn tunes if you really want to know, like power chords, learn tunes that, you know, classic riffs and songs that use them. But if you're dabbling around and realize there's a lot more going on with them that maybe you realize that, you know, and this is just the tip of the iceberg with what I'm showing you here today. So I'll leave that for today, the lesson for today. But let me just say this once again real quickly. I say if there's anything here that's, you know, the most important thing here, it really is to learn how to be able to mute out the other strings, right? When you learn to play your power chords, because you just can't have these fingers high where everything's ringing out, okay? All right, so like the video, subscribe, leave comments. If you have any ideas for lessons, let me know. If you would like to set up lessons with me, please contact me. Yeah, thank you so much.